In 1964, a British author named Roald Dahl wrote a little book titled Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
The book tells the story of Charlie Bucket, a boy who lives in poverty with his parents and bedridden grandparents. One day, Charlie learns that world-famous chocolatier Willy Wonka is hiding 5 golden tickets inside of his Wonka bars that will reward each finder with a tour of Wonka's chocolate factory. The first 4 ticket winners are a gluttonous boy named Augustus Gloop, a gum-chewing girl named Violet Beauregard, a spoiled rich girl named Veruca Salt, and a TV-obsessed boy named Mike TV, and the final is found by Charlie. All the golden ticket winners and their parents were welcomed into the factory by Willy Wonka, where he disclosed all of his chocolate-making secrets, although the tour didn't go on without any mishaps. During the tour, Augustus fell into Wonka's chocolate river and got sucked up by a pipe. Violet chewed a piece of gum that turned her into a giant blueberry. Veruca fell down a garbage chute, and Mike got shrunken down on a television screen, with Wonka's employees, the Oompa Loompas, singing songs about the children and their faults each and every time. At the end of the tour, Charlie and his Grandpa Joe were the only ones left, and to congratulate Charlie on proving himself to be a kind and honest child, Willy Wonka gives him his chocolate factory, and Charlie and his family live happily ever after. Until the sequel, Charlie and the Great Glass Elevator, where they go to space and fight aliens and meet the president, I guess. I don't know. I didn't read that for this video.
The book did very well for Roald Dahl and has become one of his most popular works. Because of this, it's been adapted into many different forms of media, such as onstage musicals, an opera, a radio drama, video games, a theme park ride, and of course, most famously, movies.
There are currently 3 theatrically released films based on Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Mel Stewart's Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, released in 1971, Tim Burton's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, released in 2005, and Paul King's Wonka, released in 2023. While the 1971 and 2005 films adapt the original story of the book, Wonka tells the origin story of the eccentric chocolatier Willy Wonka and how he started his chocolate empire.
Each of these films are unique in their own way, because of the filmmakers behind the project, the way they portray the characters, and the stories that they tell. Because of that, I felt it would be interesting to discuss all 3 films in what I like to call the Willy Wonka trilogy. And what better way to begin than with the film that started it all, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory came to be when the daughter of the film's director, Mel Stewart, came to him after reading Charlie and the Chocolate Factory in school and asked him if he could turn it into a movie. He agreed and partnered with his producer friend David L. Walper, who was in talks with the Quaker Oats Company at the time to help them promote a new chocolate bar they were working on. The new chocolate bar became the real-world Wonka bar and was sold to help promote the movie, which now used Willy Wonka's name in the title instead of Charlie's to help boost sales of the chocolate. However, the bar melted on store shelves and sold poorly. But I believe that the use of Willy Wonka's name still helps this movie.
Willy Wonka is the obvious standout of the movie, all thanks to Gene Wilder's incredible performance.
He does a fantastic job at portraying Wonka's over-the-top theatrical and mysterious nature. He's charismatic.
But hurry, please. We have so much time and so little to see. Wait a minute. Strike that. Reverse it. Thank you.
Sketchy.
The suspense is terrible. He's gonna go this time. I hope it'll last.
Even a little terrifying in some scenes.
There's no earthly way of knowing
He's singing.
which direction we are going.
Gene Wilder didn't want the audience to be able to predict what Wonka would do next, and what his true motives were. And it all stems from one scene, the very second we meet the character as he first limps out of the factory.
I said, I'd like to come out with a cane and be crippled. And I said, because no one will know from that time on whether I'm lying or telling the truth. And he said, you mean if we don't do that, you won't do the part? I said, yeah, that's what I'm saying. And I meant it too, because it was a tricky part. But that element of who knows, is he lying or is he telling the truth, was what my main motor was. And I liked that. It appealed to me a lot.
From that moment on, your eyes are glued to Willy Wonka as he steals the show. What also helps this film is the build-up to meeting Wonka and entering the chocolate factory. We don't see Willy Wonka until pretty close to the halfway mark, and until then, the film is pretty grounded in the real world. There isn't anything that strays too far from reality. There are absurd and comedic scenes in the first half, yes, but They're worked into the realistic scenarios. When showing the Wonkamania caused by the golden ticket contest, we see a lot of vignettes showing how people around the world react to the news and the lengths they go to get their hands on a ticket.
I'll give them anything. Anything they want. All I want is to have Harold back!
Go ahead, we're listening.
What did they ask for? Whatever it is, they can have it.
They want your case of Wonka bars. Miss Curtis, did you hear me? It's your husband's life or your case of Wonka bars.
How long will they give me to think it over?
They're very comedic scenes, but they feel like things people would realistically do in response to this sort of event. All of this helps the scenes within the factory stand out. The chocolate factory feels more special to the audience because the world outside is so similar to our real world, and the practical sets help it feel more tangible while also feeling like something out of a fairy tale. The factory sets are colorful and whimsical, but they also feel lived in and like they serve a purpose in an industrial setting. It feels a little more believable as a working chocolate factory.
Okay, let's talk a little bit more about the characters, because I have a little bit more to say about them.
I think the kids are pretty good in this. They're all unknown child actors at the time and didn't really pursue acting after this film. So this is their biggest and only acting role, and they're pretty good. The four
Naughty, nasty little children.
do a good job at making these characters feel realistically bad while also keeping them appropriately over the top. Especially Veruca, who you can't really be subtle about.
I want it now! What's the matter with those twats down there?
They feel like real kids who weren't raised in the same way as Charlie was. And you kind of feel bad for them when they get their comeuppance from Wonka and never get their fates revealed at the end.
My dear boy, I promise you they'll be quite all right. When they leave here, they'll be completely restored to their normal, terrible old selves. But maybe they'll be a little bit wiser for the wear. Anyway, don't worry about them.
Does Wonka really return them back to normal? Or will they live the rest of their lives with the mental and physical scars from the tour for the rest of their lives? We don't know, because it really isn't important. What is important is Charlie's story. Charlie Bucket is played by Peter Ostrom, who does a great job as the film's lead. He feels like a real innocent and kind child who wouldn't hurt a fly. It's easy to root for him as he tries to win the golden ticket and eventually survives the tour and proves his honesty and goodness to Willy Wonka and wins the factory.
I knew you would! I just knew you would!
He's a selfless and outgoing kid who loves his family more than anything else. They're also the parents and the guardians of the kids. Mrs. Gloop, Mr. Beauregard, Mr. Salt, and Mrs. TV are pretty good.
What business you in, Salt?
Nuts.
Mr. Salt is probably the standout because you can see his exhaustion from having to deal with his daughter all the time.
Thank God for that.
Aye. Happiness is what counts for children. Happiness and harmony.
But other than that, they all serve their purpose well, which is to give a reason for why their children are the way they are. Then there's Grandpa Joe. It's become a bit of a meme that Grandpa Joe is the true villain of this movie, and I don't really believe that. Joe cares for Charlie. He really wants the best for him, but his own stubborn old man way. He helps inspire Charlie to continue looking for the golden ticket, literally springs out of bed at the chance to finally leave the gross 4-person bed he's been lying in for God knows how long, and shares his excitement at going to the factory with his grandson. He also helps in testing Charlie's honesty when the two try fizzy lifting drinks, and are later confronted by a very angry Willy Wonka about it.
So you get nothing! You lose! Good day, sir!
Grandpa Joe's, lack for a better term, old manness is crucial to Charlie's story and isn't as bad as people will make you believe. Finally, let's talk about the Oompa Loompas. They've always been a controversial bunch. In early editions of the original novel, they were portrayed as African pygmies, but were later changed as to avoid any comparisons to slavery. In this movie, they were portrayed with orange skin and green hair and were played by 10 little people. I think changing their appearance not only helps avoid any comparisons to slavery, even though there still are in some cases, but also helps add to the fairy tale whimsy and the mystery behind them.
Alright, that's enough about the characters. What about the story? How's that? It's pretty good.
It takes some liberties with the original story. Some elements are removed in favor of Slugworth's larger role, but all the major elements are there. Charlie finds out about the golden ticket, finds the last one, goes to the factory, watches 4 kids get tortured by a psychopath, proves he's not like those other little shits to Willy Wonka, and wins the chocolate factory. This time, though, there was an added subplot with Slugworth, who pressured all the kids to try and sabotage Wonka by stealing
The everlasting gobstopper.
take him down. This is mainly added to help test Charlie Bucket, and when he goes against Slugworth and returns the gobstopper to Wonka, we find out they were really working together the whole time.
Pleasure.
Slugworth.
No, that's not Slugworth. He works for me.
Miss Bonbon,
Yes, Mr. Slugworth.
call the police.
Which makes you question if the whole thing was rigged in Charlie's favor the whole time.
Charlie is so good that it catches the attention of the biggest chocolatier in the world.
Charlie Bucket.
Well, Charlie Bucket, I read all about you in the papers. I'm so happy for you.
And, as we'll see when we talk about Wonka, sees himself in Charlie and decides he'd be a perfect heir to his chocolatey throne.
Chocolatey throne would be pretty bad, though, if you really think about it. Music!
Another standout of this film is the music. The songs in this film, aside from one, are some of the most recognizable parts about it. They're all pretty catchy and have memorable lyrics and scenes to go with them. Candyman introduces us to the impact Willy Wonka's had on the world before the golden tickets. I've Got a Golden Ticket
I've got a golden ticket.
shows us the energetic joy Charlie and Grandpa Joe feel when presented with the ticket. Pure Imagination gives us a glimpse inside the mind of Willy Wonka, and also acts as the franchise's theme song. The Oompa Loompa songs are pretty fun and are extreme earworms, and I Want It Now
I Want It Now.
is a perfect encapsulation of Veruca Salt as a character. Then there's Cheer Up Charlie.
Cheer up, Charlie.
It's fine. It's regarded as the worst song in the soundtrack, and although I agree with that, I also don't think it's terrible. As a song, it's fine, but in the movie, it kind of slows down the movie and doesn't fit with the rest of the songs, which are a little more upbeat. I know the scene is meant to be a low point in the story, but I don't think you really need it there. If we were silently following Charlie home or just had an instrumental track there, then it would have worked better. Overall, the film's soundtrack is really good and only has one stinker, and even then, it's not really that bad of a song.
Overall, I think Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is a really good movie. Is it a perfect adaptation of the book? Not really, but it doesn't have to be. I don't really think the movie suffers from all this. It's really well paced, it has good dialogue and great performances, and is overall just a really good movie. The fact that this little movie is still considered a classic after 50 years is a testament to that a movie doesn't need to be a one-to-one adaptation of the book that it's based on. Okay, two people would probably disagree with that, and those people are Roald Dahl and Tim Burton, which brings us to the next movie in our discussion, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Roald Dahl was not pleased with Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, despite helping with the film's production.
Roald Dahl, on the set with actor Gene Wilder, who plays Willy Wonka, explains the way Harper Goff conceived of this storybook setting.
After he passed away in 1990, his estate was given full artistic control over a new film adaptation of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. After years of trying to find a perfect director for the project, Warner Brothers hired Tim Burton in 2003. Burton previously worked with WB on Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Beetlejuice, Batman 1989, Batman Returns, and Mars Attacks, and had experience with Roald Dahl's other work with his stop-motion adaptation of James and the Giant Peach for Disney. With the hiring of Tim Burton also came the hiring of some of his frequent collaborators, such as Danny Elfman as composer, and Johnny Depp as Willy Wonka. Tim Burton and Dahl's estate wanted the film to stay as true to the original novel as much as possible to please Roald Dahl's ghost, I'd suppose, but also took some liberties with the story by adding a focus on family, mainly by unraveling Willy Wonka's origin story, something that had been left a mystery up until this film. This was made to help explain Willy Wonka's weirdness, but was also inspired by Tim Burton's personal experience with the strange parents who followed his career in Hollywood. With that, I suppose I'll start talking about the film's story. It's fine. It stays pretty true to the original novel story, along with adding the origin subplot for Wonka, but it just doesn't work very well here. There's too much going on, and a lot of it is unnecessary in my opinion. I don't need Wonka's backstory in a story about Charlie.
This is a story of an ordinary little boy named
Charlie Bucket.
It's kind of strange how the movie with Willy Wonka's name in the title is more about Charlie, and the movie with Charlie's name in the title is more about Willy Wonka. The only plus I'll give this film's Wonka origin story is that it gives us this scene of Charlie denying Wonka's offer to take over the factory when he tells him that he can't bring his family along with.
You can't run a chocolate factory with a family hanging over you like an old dead goose.
So if I go with you to the factory, I won't ever see my family again?
Yeah. Consider that a bonus.
Then I'm not going. I wouldn't give up my family for anything, not for all the chocolate in the world.
That's a good character moment for Charlie and shows how much he cares about his family. And that's nice. My issues with this movie don't really stem from the story as much as it does from the visuals and the characters. Let's start with the visuals since that's one of Tim Burton's signatures. If you've seen any of Tim Burton's projects like Batman, Beetlejuice, Edward Scissorhands, Sweeney Todd, Alice in Wonderland, Nightmare Before Christmas, even though he didn't direct it, or Wednesday, you'll know his visual style pretty well. He loves German expressionism, which favors sharp, exaggerated shapes and high contrast colors.
I think it fits with certain projects, but not this. Let's take his Batman movies, for example, because they're the only other Tim Burton movies that I'm pretty familiar with, because Batman 1989 was my favorite Batman movie, up until 2022 when I saw The Batman, which is like the best Batman movie. Okay, I'm not talking about Batman today. We're talking about Willy Wonka. So let's briefly talk about Batman and then go back to Willy Wonka.
Batman and Gotham City are supposed to be dark, moody, and grotesque. Gotham is supposed to feel like it's about to fall apart at any second. And I think the visual design aesthetics of Tim Burton work to show that both visually and tonally. And Batman uses it to his advantage to scare the criminals he fights on a nightly basis. Also, it helps his villains like the Joker and the Penguin come off as scarier. For Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, I feel like that doesn't work. Sure, there are some creepy undertones with Willy Wonka and the behind the scenes of his factory, but I don't think that should come from the visuals of the man in his factory. It should come from how he acts on the tour and how he runs his company. Visually speaking, the factory should be lively and welcoming until Willy Wonka starts acting strange and kids start falling into rivers and turning into blueberries. Also, that should be restricted to the factory interior. Everything outside of the factory should stay as true to the real world as possible. Known hack frauds Mike and Jay from Red Letter Media went into this further in their review of the 1971 movie. But to sum it up, the differing visual styles help to make the interior of the factory feel more unique and fantastical.
Yes.
Now on to the characters. I'll start with the ones I like. Again, I think the kids are pretty good. They're a lot more exaggerated this time, but I think it still works here and allows for less sympathy. Violet and Mike were updated a little bit here. Mike is more of a gamer and computer whiz this time around, which is something that's stuck in future adaptations that have come since this film's release. He also drops the R-bomb, which solidifies him as a real epic gamer. Violet is now an overachieving athlete, which I like more than just being a gum chewer. Other than chewing loudly and sticking it under tables, there isn't really anything wrong with chewing gum, so I'm glad they changed that for this movie. It teaches kids that it's not good to be an overachiever who brags about all the awards they've won. Now let's talk about Charlie. Sorry, Veruca and Augustus, but there isn't really much to talk about with you, especially Augustus. There isn't a lot to him other than he eats a lot. Like Peter Ostrom's Charlie in the original movie, Freddie Highmore, Sean Murphy from The Good Doctor himself.
I am a surgeon!
I don't care.
He's pretty good in this film. He's a tinkerer in this film, which I like a lot more to connect him with Willy Wonka. He's also a lot more family-oriented here. He wants the best for all the buckets and will do whatever it takes to help them, even if it means to turn down an opportunity that will make all of his wildest dreams come true. As for the rest of the Bucket family, I'll be talking a lot more about them, and not just Grandpa Joe, because they have a larger role this time. They're a real family unit who love and support each other. You can see where he gets his selflessness from. Now, let's move on to Mr. Willy Wonka.
Good morning, Starshine. The Earth says hello.
I do not like Johnny Depp as Willy Wonka. Not one bit.
I think Johnny Depp is a good actor, but not here. He's too creepy and weird and not wholesome and whimsical enough. He was inspired by children's television hosts, but I can't think of any that are like this guy, so I don't know who they looked at for inspiration. Johnny Depp also said that the voice was inspired by what George W. Bush would sound like while high on drugs. Sure, why not? I think a very important element of Willy Wonka is his caring nature. Sure, he might be a lunatic, but he wants the best for people he cares about. If he doesn't like you, he couldn't give less of a shit about what happens to you. He wants to help the little guy because, and again, as we'll see in Wonka and see a little bit in this movie, he was the little guy once too. I wish there was more of a connection between him and Charlie. I don't feel anything in their relationship. There's no chemistry, and I don't feel like Willy Wonka gives much of a shit about him. Then there's his dad, Dr. Wilbert Wonka.
Lollipops.
Christopher Lee is fine in this role. Can't complain too much about the performance because he still has that typical Christopher Lee aura that we all know and love from Saruman and Count Dooku, who got his hands and heads chopped off by Anakin Skywalker the same year this movie came up. So that's a thing. Finally, there are the Oompa Loompas, who are all played by Deep Roy. They're fine too. The cloning effect is very convincing, and you can tell he's having a lot of fun doing all the dances to the songs, which are also all fine. They use the lyrics from the book and are all set to different genres, which is kinda neat. But aren't as memorable as the original songs.
Generally, I think this movie's fine, but it's not my Wonka-branded cup of tea. If you're a fan of Tim Burton's filmography, you'll probably enjoy this, but I'm probably not going to revisit this again anytime soon. But a movie I will be revisiting a lot happens to be the subject of our final discussion, Wonka.
In October 2016, Warner Brothers acquired the film rights to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory from the Roald Dahl estate. It began working on a Willy Wonka solo film that would tell his origin story and join the long list of movies with one-word titles that tell the origin of a character that doesn't really need their origin story to be told because it ruins the mysterious intrigue that made people fall in love with them to begin with. Think Maleficent, and Solo, and Cruella, and Lightyear, and Joker. In 2018, Paul King, director of the beloved Paddington franchise, was hired to direct the film. He was a fan of not only Roald Dahl's work, but also the previous film adaptations of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, especially the 1971 adaptation.
I grew up loving Roald Dahl. He was really the great writer of my childhood. And the first thing I read of his was Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And I had this old paperback and I read it and I read it and I read it. And I must have read it dozens of times because I remember the pages all came out of the book. I really wanted this movie to be able to sit as a companion piece to the original movie. I want to bring to the world a Wonka back when he was young and wide-eyed and full of hope and optimism before he became that sort of Gene Wilder version of the character that so many of us grew up with.
But he didn't want it to be a cheap imitation of it, and more of a tribute and companion piece. So the film is set 25 years before Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory in 1946.
Wrong, sir. Wrong!
Nominally, the time is 1948, which would allow Timothée Chalamet to grow into Gene Wilder.
He worked closely with Roald Dahl's estate to make the film as authentic to Roald Dahl's style as possible, and discovered that Dahl also wanted to tell Wonka's origin, but sadly never got around to it. He also looked at the musical Oliver for inspiration for the film's musical style and its rags to riches story.
All of this makes Wonka a fun, wholesome family musical, and I think Warner Brothers was smart, delaying it from March to December.
Wonka is a feel-good rags to riches musical that I can see becoming a timeless classic just like the 1971 movie. It's funny, heartwarming, and it has good music. It feels very retro with all the practical sets, costumes, and musical style, but it doesn't make a big deal about it. No one ever mentions, "Hey, it's 1946 and World War II just ended, yippee!"
The other thing about the late 40s, which seemed like a good place for a Willy Wonka movie, is because the world is slightly stiff, and what they need is a massive blast of Willy Wonka and the future and a Technicolor kind of fandango that he can bring to their lives.
You see the old cars, technology, and clothes, and you know it's set in the past. I think it helps the movie feel more like a fairy tale. It's this magical story set many years in the past. Hey look, there's even a castle!
It's a ruined castle.
The fun thing about the castle is that it becomes Willy Wonka's chocolate factory at the end, but you can see it at the very beginning of the movie. So I like that. That was kind of a cool detail. It's also a pretty simple story. There aren't any crazy big themes here. It's a movie about the power of teamwork and following your dreams. Pretty simple stuff that kids can understand, and there's nothing wrong with that. The film knows it's a musical for kids, but also knows those kids might have seen the original movie by their parents who definitely grew up with that film and are most likely watching this film with them. So it's not too simple and stupid for the adults, and has plenty of fan service, which is done very well. Before the movie came out, I expected it to be a cheap cash grab that would pander to our nostalgia for the 1971 movie and drop all the famous lines and wink and nod at all the things that we love and know from the original. But it doesn't. It's there, but it's few and far between and feels natural. They reprise the Oompa Loompa song in Pure Imagination, reuse the Oompa Loompa design, and quote a couple of lines.
Scratch that, reverse it.
Good day, sir.
That's my last jar!
I said good day.
So goes a good deed in a weary world.
So many movies these days are banking on nostalgia and not giving us new original ideas with these beloved properties, so I'm glad Wonka didn't fall into those same traps.
I'd name a few examples, but we'd be here all day. So I'll just say, if you look at some of these, you might find something, maybe, some that fall into that trap. You might find one or two or three or something like that, you know, just saying, you might find one or two.
Let's talk about the characters, because I think they're one of the strongest parts of this movie. Starting with the star of the movie, Willy Wonka.
Here we go, Mama.
Willy's played by Timothée Chalamet from Lady Bird, Little Women, and Dune. When the film was originally announced, it was reported that he and Tom Holland of Spidey Boy fame were in the running, but Paul King said that Timothée Chalamet was always his #1 choice, ever since he watched this.
Live from G25, let's go. Statistic, yep. Statistic, yep. Statistic, yep. Statistic, yep. Miss Law M, Miss Law M, Miss Law M, Miss Law M.
Who would have thought that a rap about statistics would lead little Timmy Tim to winning a Kids' Choice Award?
Thank you, Nickelodeon, for the 2024 Kids' Choice Award for Favorite Actor.
I think Timothée Chalamet is a great Willy Wonka. Is he as good as Gene Wilder? No, but I don't think that was the intent. This is a younger Willy Wonka, so he isn't as jaded by years locked inside a chocolate factory. He's cheerful and optimistic, but still has a hint to the twistedness Gene Wilder did. He feels like a younger version of that character, whether he's supposed to be or not. He has an entertaining theatrical presence that makes him fun to watch.
No, that's just for making tea.
The supporting cast is also very fun. Willy's friends Noodle, Abacus Crunch, Piper Benz, Lottie Bell, and the GOAT Larry Chucklesworth,
comedian,
and Lofty the Oompa Loompa are great fun and have lots of memorable moments as they help Willy Wonka achieve his dream. Hugh Grant's Lofty is especially fun when you find out he hated doing it. He's really good at pretending to care about things he couldn't give less of a shit about. He also had this to say about Paul King.
I'm miserable myself. I like to spread negativity. On this one, I didn't entirely succeed because he's irrepressible, Paul King. He basically is Paddington in a human costume, and he brings all that niceness, and he actually likes people. What a perv.
Didn't know Paul King was a Please Stop Vlogging fan. That's cool.
This is the pervert gang right here. Don't ever talk to me or my gang ever again. Perverts unite. Dab.
The villains are also especially fun to watch. You have the Chocolate Cartel, which is made up of Slugworth, Prodnose, and Fickelgruber, which are all rivals of Willy Wonka that were mentioned in the original novel, along with Mrs. Scrubbit, Bleacher, and the Chief of Police, and Father Bean. Paul King took inspiration from some of Roald Dahl's other villains, from Fantastic Mr. Fox and the short story The Landlady, so they have that authentic, whimsically diabolical feel that his villains usually have. You also love to hate these guys as they try to defeat Willy Wonka. Also, there's Abigail the Giraffe. She's the giraffe. There's not really much to say about her. It would have been cool if she got in a fight with like an evil giraffe that worked with the bad guys. That would have been kind of cool.
The one thing I really appreciate about this movie is the use of practical sets.
There are some fantastic sets in this movie, from the City Square, the Gallery Gourmet, and Willy Wonka's chocolate shop. They're so intricately detailed and massive, which helps this fictional setting feel real. The only set that isn't done practically is the chocolate factory at the end, which kind of sucks because I would have loved to have seen this done in real life. But maybe because we see it build itself out of thin air and is also only in it for a minute or two, they felt it was unnecessary to do practically.
I guess I can take that as an excuse. But if this thing gets a sequel, they better build it for real, or else I'm gonna scream to the high heavens and not sing the songs to the high heavens. Hey, why don't we talk about the music?
I think the songs are great. They're really catchy and fit with the songs that we've already heard from the franchise. I like that each song is also used in instrumental themes throughout the movie. Hat Full of Dreams.
Hat full of dreams.
And You've Never Had Chocolate Like This.
You've never had chocolate like this. You've never had chocolate like this.
Are Willy's main theme, the Oompa Loompa songs.
Oompa Loompa.
Are obviously Lofty's theme. Scrub Scrub.
Scrub Scrub.
Are the themes of the Scrubbers and Scrub It and Bleacher. Sweet Tooth.
Sweet Tooth.
Is the Chocolate Cartel and their cronies theme. A World of Your Own.
A World of Your Own.
Is the theme of Mama Wonka. And For a Moment. Is Noodle's theme. Also, Pure Imagination.
Pure Imagination.
Because Willy sings a new version of it when she's reunited with her mom before moving into the castle factory and singing the original lyrics.
Pure imagination.
All the songs work together with the story to help it move the plot along, which I like. The story doesn't stop dead in its tracks for a musical number. The story would be fine on its own, but the songs help to add some life to certain scenes that would be a bit dull without it. The plot itself is really good. As I said before, it's a simple rags to riches story and helps connect Willy Wonka to Charlie Bucket. Wonka enters the city with very little money and is challenged by people who put down his creativity and optimism as he tries to achieve his goals. But along the way, he meets new friends who support him and his dream of becoming a world-famous chocolatier. I don't know if that was the intent, but I really like it. It makes Charlie an even more perfect fit to take over the factory because he has a similar backstory as Willy Wonka. He sees a bit of himself in Charlie and doesn't want him to suffer in poverty because he knows the struggles and how the joys of chocolate making and pure imagination helped him get out of it. As I said before, this film does a great job at showing the power of teamwork, perseverance, and creativity. Willy Wonka doesn't make it on his own and doesn't get everything handed to him. He has to work to achieve his goals and learns that he can't do it alone. So he builds a team and follows his heart. At a time when there's so much cynicism and hate in the world, it's good to have a family film that shows the power of positivity and togetherness without making it seem corny. On its own, this is a very fun family movie that I think will be beloved for years to come without relying on nostalgia for the original movie.
Overall, I'd say the Willy Wonka trilogy is a fascinating group of films. They all share similarities, being based on the same source material and being in the same franchise, but they all bring something new to the table. They all have something new to say and reflect the filmmakers and the time that they were made in. They all take what Roald Dahl did and add to it. But at their core, they all show that it pays to be kind, honest, creative, and optimistic. In this day and age, I think that's more important than ever. These movies teach us to be good people and to follow our dreams, no matter how crazy or insane they may be. You'd be surprised at what a little pure imagination can do.
Well done, rampaging elephant. Well done.
Ah! Who the fuck are you?
Me?
Yes, you. What's your name?
You don't remember me?
No! I've never seen you in my entire life.
That's, interesting. I can put this here. What would you say my identity is to you?
What?
What's the one single word that you would use to describe your knowledge of my identity?
Like, I guess, unknown?
Yes! 'Tis I, the unknown, sworn enemy of Willy Wonka, and soon to be the greatest chocolatier in the world! No, I gotta stop doing that.
Oh, God damn it! You're that Dr. Doom looking guy from the fucking AI Willy Wonka thing in Glasgow.
Fuck! Shit! Excuse me? Don't you dare compare me to Dr. Doom! That asshole stole my look!
It's just a cloak and a mask, dude. It's not that original.
Silence! I am here for one reason, and one reason only.
Are you gonna kill me?
No, I'm not going to kill you. Again, I'm not Dr. Doom.
Are you sure?
Yes.
So if I take that mask off, I won't find Robert Downey Jr. under there.
No.
Can you take your mask off?
No!
Okay, I'm sorry. You were saying?
I am here because I heard you were reviewing my Nemesis's movies. So, late last night, I snuck into your house, got behind one of your mirrors, and have been hiding within your walls, waiting for the very moment that you finish your big Willy Wonka review.
Oh, so that's what I heard last night.
There he is. Quiet, you little idiot.
What the fuck was that? Ow. I must be hearing things. I'm going to bed.
Whew. That was a close one. I really gotta work on my ninja stealth skills.
Yeah, you're more of a ninja. Terrible what passes for a ninja these days.
What?
Nothing.
Alright.
Okay, so just making sure I, understand what's going on here. You broke into my house so you could overhear me reviewing some movies right there. Correct?
Yes and no. I followed you online for many years now, and I've always been intrigued by your thoughts and commentary on popular films and television shows.
Are you being serious right now, or are you just kissing my ass?
A little bit of both. Now, when I heard you were making a video about the film starring my arch rival, I just knew I had to get a front row seat, and you, my friend, did not disappoint.
Okay, thanks. I guess.
You are very welcome. And to congratulate you, I've decided to give you this.
A hat?
Not just any hat. Willy Wonka's hat.
What do you mean?
You have proven to me that you are quite knowledgeable on the subject of Willy Wonka, and I believe that you are quite deserving of it.
Where'd you get it from?
Who do you think? The Mad Hatter?
You stole it from him! I knew you were just like Dr. Doom!
I did not steal it! And I'm not Dr. Doom! He gave it to me! Willy Wonka is my boss! And he wanted you to have it because you seem to understand that everything he's about! Ah!
Really?
Yes! Now keep the fucking hat, you asshole!
Okay, relax. I'm keeping the hat. The hat is staying with me.
Thank you. Now, if you'll follow me, I will take you to the chocolate factory, and what are you doing?
Oh, I'm figuring out where I'm gonna put it.
Put the thing on your head and come with me!
Serious? This thing's huge. My head's way too small for it. Look. See? Too small.
Huh. I didn't think of that. Well, are you going to come with me, or just, like, stay here or something?
You know, I'd love to, but I kind of got stuff going on here that I have to attend to, and I don't really have time to be running a chocolate factory right now. Or ever.
How'd you know he was going to give you the factory?
He's pretty predictable once you get to know him.
True. I can already predict how he's going to react to this.
Me too.
You get nothing! You lose! Good day, sir!
So, what's the next big project you're working on, Rampaging Elephant?
I've got an idea, but I'm not going to spoil it right now. I don't want to ruin the surprise. Yet.
Alright. I won't waste any more of your time, Rampaging Elephant. I will go back to the factory and let Willy Wonka know what's going on, and just leave you to it. Good day to you, Rampaging Elephant. I wish you all the best, and I'm sure Willy Wonka does as well.
You can just call me Charlie.
Goodbye, Rampaging Elephant!
Alright, see you, man. Oh, that was weird. Well, I better get started on my next video. I got a lot to watch. 52 episodes of a TV show, 1 2-hour movie. This is gonna be fun.
Hey, Mr. Wonka. I got some news for you. It's not news you're going to like, but, okay, how do I put this? So you know how I went to Rampaging Elephant's house because he was reviewing movies and I was gonna give him the factory? Well, he said no, so, okay, I can see that you are not happy about that, but just want you to know there are plenty of other candidates here that I can find and you know, get to take over the factory and everything, what? Uh-oh. Oh, I'm sorry.
This is going to be such an exciting day. I hope you enjoy it. I think you will.
On we go!
I know. It's a miracle.
Your imagination is real.
You'll be free.
Chocolate.
I know.
Change the world. Your imagination
It could change the world.
On we go!
What's it making, Mr. Wonka? Mr. Wonka worked the factory.
In your wildest dreams, you could not imagine.
Mr. Wonka. What's it making, Mr. Wonka? Mr. Wonka worked the factory.
We are the music makers, and we are the dreamers of dreams.
It's the most wonderful place in the whole world.
My dreams.
Adieu, adieu. Parting is such sweet sorrow.